Now, Chris, we paid our fees to the music industry, so we shouldn't have any problems.
All right. Looks like we're now live on Facebook.
All right, thank you. I'm not going to go back to the beginning if the council will indulge me. And then finally, in social media, back in 2017, we didn't have an Instagram account. Now we have 2,893 followers on Instagram, including 510 on our Spanish Instagram. So very successful, focusing on the areas that we brought up in 2017. In 2018, right after the SPLOST was approved, we actually started talking about specific debt structures and financing to make progress on our major capital plans and master plans across the city. And we actually took those on in 19. Also in 18, we talked about reconstituting the Brookhaven Convention Visitors Bureau, and that started the wheels turning, and now we have a fully functioning CDB today that's doing good work. And then the last topic in 2018 was human capital management, and that was about making sure that we had competitive salaries and training and retention policies so we had the best workforce possible. And that resulted in a complete review of the pay structures in the police department in early 2019, because we had huge turnover and the retention issues because of competition on salary from other jurisdictions. Council approved some policy changes in April of 19, and now we have a waiting list to come work at the Brookhaven Police Department. In 2019, at that advance, we actually talked about a specific CIP financing for the park bond, the various transportation projects. We were actually moved from saying, hey, we need strategic financing in 17, laying out options in 18, which resulted in the bond issues for the Peachtree Creek Greenway, Public Safety Building, and the park bond. And then in 19, we actually talked about how those projects were going and moving some things around within those projects because they were really getting up and running. Also in 19, we talked about re-engaging MARTA 2.0 at the MARTA station in the development, and Sherilyn has actively been doing that since then. And then the last topic in 2019 was a demographic update. Sherilyn gave us an update of how the city had changed from cityhood through the end of 18, early 19, and it had changed a lot. And we gave that presentation because we were going into the 2020 census. And then last year, we were able to have our retreat in 2020 before we had COVID, and we covered three things: the sustainability of the stormwater fund, which the council approved a slight increase in the rate in April-May timeframe of 2020 of 50 cents a month. We talked about the city center master plan, which is now fully in its public engagement process in the community development department. And Patty gave an update on our preparations for the 2020 census. So that leads us up to today's agenda, which has three focus areas: the green space acquisition, a detailed update on the Park Bond Capital Improvement Program, which will include presentations from the program manager, Lee Croy, our director of Parks and Recreation, Brian Borden, and our director of IT, Richard Mullis. Then we'll talk about historic resources, which is an item that's in the comp plan, and that'll be presented by Patrice Ruffin from the Community Development Department. So are there any questions about what I've presented or the agenda before we jump right into the green space acquisition topic?
Anyone have any questions? Anyone on council? Welcome, John Park.
Thank you.
And I will note at the end of the agenda, there is a period for district presentation or commentary. And I know we've gotten a couple in from council members. So without further ado, we'll jump right into green space acquisition. I will share my screen now. At least I will attempt to. All right, do you have it?
Yes.
Excellent. So we're going to talk about green space acquisition update. Sorry, I'm trying to drive the presentation here at the same time. All right. So once again, our vision and mission includes green space, and I've included a map of where all of
Christian,
our.
we're seeing your
Christian, you
inbox.
have your email up, not your presentation. There you go. You have to make that bigger. There you go.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Beginning driver here. So we have a city map here where our green space is and our vision and mission. So in our the comprehensive plan, there's a goal of 8 acres per 1,000 residents. That would be about 432 acres citywide. And then there is a standard in the various kind of open space and recreation associations of a 10-minute walk to parks or green space. That metric is nowhere in our planning documents, but it's kind of an industry standard that a lot of jurisdictions subscribe to. So when we became a city, we inherited parks from DeKalb County, and at the time, we were told they were 256.5 acres. By far, Murphy Candler being the biggest and Clacks Corner being the smallest. But those were just numbers were provided by the county. The council authorized funding to do detailed surveys. And after that was done, we discerned that we actually just lost 20 acres, principally because Brookhaven Park isn't as big as we thought it was because the front half is owned by the county. And then there were some minor changes here and there in other parks based on specific surveys. And then there was the deal with the school district with the land swap for the old vital records office that became a park and the new school. So at the time, we technically inherited 235.61 acres as a city. Since then, though, the council has made it a priority and has made a number of acquisitions, quite a bit for a city our size. Specifically, 70 acres of green space have been added since 2016, and that took our total green space up to 305.6 acres, or 5.7 per thousand. To get all the way to the city goal, we would need 126 more. But these types of acquisitions, especially the Ashford Forest Preserve and the Peachtree Creek Greenway, those are major pieces of land that typically do not exist inside of a metro area such as Brookhaven. So the strategic decisions to acquire, identify and acquire those properties will have lasting impact for Brookhaven. And I'm going to click on this link here and hopefully it works. I'm going to just put it in my browser.
It may work if you enable your editing.
Yeah, I got it going on my other screen. I'll move it over.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, we there?
Yep.
Okay. This is called a swipe map. Let me change the orientation just a tad so you can see it. What you see on here on the left is the city's boundaries and city's parks in 2016. And the blue color or teal color, I'm partially colorblind, so I apologize, but the non-green color represents about a 10-minute walk to our city parks as the city was defined in 2016. As I swipe the feature over, it will include all the acquisitions since then and create a new walkability. And what you see in this particular presentation here is a vast improvement. I'm going to go back and forth here just slowly and then highlight a couple parcels. How the walkability in the city has changed dramatically in just a 4-year time period. There are 4 acquisitions or activities I want to point out that were very significant in this time. The first being the Ashford Forest Preserve, the old PDK site, which really finished up the east side of the city in the central. Great walkability. And important to point to that, that's on our border. So to a certain extent, our residents can also walk to other people's parks, but other people can walk to our parks. So that was a significant acquisition. The other area would be the North Druid Hills property across from Cross Keys High School. You'll notice down in here, we had very little walkability as a city in District 4. But with the North Druid Hills acquisition and the Peachtree Creek Greenway implementation, the southern part of the city has significant ability to walk to green space. Now, from here, we still have significant gaps in the city system. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint now. Okay, we got the FEMA lots up?
Yes.
Great, thank you. In addition to green space, the city maintains open space through our FEMA properties. And the FEMA properties are purchases by the city and came over from the county based on a voluntary program for flood-prone properties. And we own approximately 15.44 acres of FEMA properties. A good chunk of that is the Drew Valley Detention Pond, which is highlighted. Some of those can be activated, some of them can't, but we should think about how we use those and how we activate them as true green space versus just flood mitigation. Going forward, as we all know, Brookhaven is pretty much built out, so there's a very limited number of large undeveloped lots available in the city. Also, because of the large areas that don't have connectivity right now, we should probably focus on connecting different green space areas. There are 5 strategies listed here. We're not recommending any individual one, but they're ones that are available to the city, including purchase options, life estates, carving out portions of the general fund reserve to create opportunities to purchase green space, continue to look for grants, and working with large private developments to ensure their open space are publicly accessible. City staff identified, working with various stakeholders, properties that would be good acquisitions strategically throughout the city. There's 7 of them. Some of them are for sale, some are not. But these 7 properties total 32 acres. And if the city were able to acquire those, our green space per 1,000 population would increase from 5.7 to 6.3. Again, our goal being 8. I asked our GIS department to do a before and after. If the city were to acquire these properties, what would our walkability look like? Okay, what we have here, can you see this one?
Yes.
Okay, let me go back out so we have the whole city. So what you have here is the current walkability in Brookhaven in the sand color. In the yellow are the parcels that are strategically important, that would have a huge impact on our ability to have walkability throughout the city. If they were acquired, you'll see 2 really significant changes. The first being is the connectivity really between District 3 and 4 in this corridor right in here, if we could acquire this property here. And then you also have significant ability to create access to green space in the northwest quadrant of the city. I'm going to swipe back over. You'll see we have very little walkability to green space in the northwest quadrant of the city, but just those 2 properties would change things dramatically. Same thing in the southern part of the city with the this property right here, which is the Goodwin Island. If that was purchased and moved into some kind of programming, it would open up green space acquisition or green space accessibility in the Pine Hills area dramatically. Any questions on that map before I move back to the PowerPoint?
I don't see any questions.
Okay, so I'm all the way at the end now, actually. Yep. So I wanted just to provide an update of kind of where we were as a city. We started, we thought we had X, we did surveys, we got Y. The council's bought a number of properties that greatly increased our green space and walkability. And then we've identified some parcels that might lead to strategic connection of neighborhoods in the future if they become available on the market. With that, I will take any questions.
Questions? And excuse me as I form out so that I can see everyone. So questions.
Yeah.
Joe.
Question, really quick. Wouldn't the Peachtree Creek Greenway from the Fulton County line to Chamblee, or let's just take where phase one is right now, wouldn't the entire population within a 10-minute walk on either side now be enhanced as far as our walkability?
Definitely. I mean, we don't know the right of way yet, but once phase two, which goes from North Druid Hills to the Atlanta line, that would really finish off the southeast quadrant north of 85. And then phase three going from Briarwood to Claremont would finish off the the southeast quadrant over toward Chamblee. So yes, the Greenway is huge because it's a linear park. And the key being you have to have access points beyond just the terminus. So I know the phase two design has an access point near LAA, just like phase one has an access point near Corporate Square.
And to that end, the connectivity within the complexes, apartment complexes, and or residents and single family, if any of those would be connected, that would increase the walkability.
Correct, Mayor. There are a number of, for lack of a better term, private gates for condos and apartments along the first phase of Peachtree Creek Greenway.
And then, you know, seeing this, it kind of reminds me the goal that we have of 8 per 1,000 is a goal that doesn't seem to lend itself to be ever achievable. As we grow as a city in our population growth and just through natural, and our, you know, our borders are, while could extend and further down, at some point become locked, and that, you know, 8 per 1,000 would be very hard to do.
You know, the compression, it's going to get harder and harder with time as a inner ring city in a major metro area to acquire properties of any substance.
And we do have private areas that are out there that are of green space or recreation that are private throughout the city. And that does not include, your map does not include anything that was developed that's being maintained by through a management, an HOA, or, you know, Town Brookhaven has green space, and I forget what it's called, but the development at North Druid Hills, the old Boys and Girls Club, has a publicly accessed, privately maintained green space.
And I think that's a definitional issue. And it's exciting to a certain extent because the Choa campus and the Emory campus are open campuses in their master plan and have significant green space. You know, working with them, if it could be portrayed as green space on city maps, that would greatly increase our connectivity. Informal connectivity exists in many places already, you know, neighborhood known goat paths and things like that, but those are private property issues. So yes, that's one of the strategies. It was the 5th bullet on that slide that talked about, you know, how do we work with the larger property owners that own space, including the schools with ball fields and things like that. That would be this last bullet here.
Yeah. And then also, you know, as we make connectivity with trails, multi-use paths, sidewalks, that increases our 10-minute walk. And while, there's, Murphy Candler 2 is a project that's bid, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in the coming months. That would increase, whenever that gets done, would increase the walkability of one area. So these, what I see the greatest strategic importance is making connections in throughout neighborhoods to increase our walkability. Can greatly make that's, for me, it looks like the biggest bang for the buck that going forward. Though I agree that we need to make as many strategic purchases as we can. John,
right.
Madeline? Anyone?
All
No,
right.
Madeline, no, Lindley, no, John?
All right, so we had a little bit of a slow start because the technical difficulties. If you would like, we could skip the break and we could jump right into the park bond update. Lee and Brian are ready. I just got a text from them. What is the pleasure of the mayor?
I say let's continue. The next one, I will need a break. I need to refill my coffee.
Do we want to take, oh, after Lee's?
After Lee's.
Okay, Brian, you're going to have to, a little pause between you and Lee. All right, Lee, you're up.
Okay, let me see if I can get this to work as we practiced. Okay. Is that the right
Yep.
presentation? Somebody give me a thumbs up on that.
You're good.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Christian. Good morning, Mayor and Council. Christian did ask that I attend this morning and give I'll say a brief update on the program. Is that going to stop? Okay. I say brief, we'll just have to see how quickly or slowly we get through the whole program. Just going to start out with a few points of history on the parks program and the park bond. Right after the city was incorporated, there was a request for a comprehensive master plan. And one of the comments from that was that they needed specific master plans needed to be developed for all the parks. Y'all did go through that process. 10 of the city parks went through the master planning process. There was an extensive effort to do that. Just some numbers there: 60 stakeholders, conversations, 20 meetings, and 10 public information meetings. Following that, the master plans were adopted by City Council. Following that, park bond project, it was broken down to determine which parks would be included in the bond program. That did pass in 2018. Following that, the Park Bond Oversight Committee was established. Jacobs was brought on board as the program manager, and Clark Patterson Lee was contracted to complete the design of 5 of the 6 bond parks. Los Design is the other firm they're working on Brookhaven Park, and they also did the pool at Briarwood. The Park Bond Oversight Committee, it's 5 members, 3 technical members, and 1 representative from the south side and north side. When the program started, we had 9 meetings in 2019. That got everything established up through acceptance of what projects were going to be broken out of the master plans and get that design started. We had 2 early meetings in 2020, and when COVID hit, we did slow down, but as far as the meetings goes, but at that point, we really didn't see the need to continue monthly meetings at that point. I've maintained email contact with them, getting them plans, updates, when things are going to bid, when they're getting awarded, and continued that. We will have our next meeting scheduled, still to be scheduled, but we'll have a meeting in March. Financial transparency, we do now have the project activity versus budget reports have been posted online, and we will continue to do that monthly. I'll work with finance and get those posted monthly. And one thing I've worked with Brian and the design team and our monthly meetings with Christian, we are maintaining a working spreadsheets to make sure that we are staying within budget. And those spreadsheets include not only the expenditures, but the estimates, opinion of probable costs, expected costs such as Georgia Power, DeKalb water meters. We just keep an extensive list, a working list, to make sure that we're staying within working to stay within that budget for each of the parks. Communications for the public. Again, we have gone through the oversight committee meetings. We do have a website within the city for the parks bond that does have updates posted on it. I've worked with Burke and Anne Marie on public notices through the Friday blasts. As we all know, we've had a flurry of public records requests to disperse information. And there is an email address there that is forwarded to Brian and I to reply to comments and questions from the public. So my presentation this morning, I will go through the list of the parks in the park bond program by district. You can see the list there. And then as Christian was saying, Brian and Robert will pick up with some of the system-wide items at the bottom. And I'll go ahead and mention, do have I'll say a master schedule that's at the end that'll tie everything up to show what we plan to accomplish this year and getting into the next year to get these projects finished. So starting with Blackburn Park, the program or the bond program did include the marquee fencing, solar canopy, site furnishings, landscaping, and the parking lot renovations. Brian worked one of his projects. He did finish the marquee fencing and the landscaping. Both of those projects were completed in 2019. The parking lot improvements by Lavorne Construction, that was finished in late 2020. That consisted of going through the park, raising all of the granite curb, milling the asphalt, and resurfacing Rebecca Williams Way throughout the whole park. As we got started, we realized that there's a 50-inch oak tree that sits on Rebecca Williams Way. And one of the focuses on that project was just to realign the road to get off of the root system for that tree. We did pick up a few parking spaces beside the tree and a few parking spaces all the way over at the playground area. And just to get into some pictures here, again, marquee fencing was put up. Landscaping was added later in the year. You can see the old existing road at the south entrance with the root system grown into the road. Actually, there are a few of these pieces of granite curb that are still there because they're in the root system. So we worked through that. Here's some pictures of the finished project. Road was realigned around that tree. Hope to give it a few extra years of life there. And the north entrance at the playground, we did pick up these parallel parking spaces throughout that. I will mention there is some bond budget left. So we are still in discussion with CPL to see if we can accomplish some of the parking lot improvements on, is it Roberts Road that's at the south part of the park? Either pick that up or some of the landscaping that's in the master plan or some shade structures that are also listed in the master plan. So we're trying to collect costs and estimates to get through that and make some decisions on how to spend that remaining budget. So any Blackburn Park questions, or I'll move on I'll just keep going park to park.
I saw a little mention of a bioretention spot. What was that about? I always like good stormwater.
Okay, let me back up to the plan view here. So straight in from the south entrance, this area where my cursor is there, we did have to add a bioretention pond there. And that requirement was because of the disturbance, the square footage disturbance that went into the project. So this small detention pond was added. It's the bottom of that pond is landscaped with ground cover, some bushes, even some trees are planted in the bottom of that pond.
Excellent. Lindley, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, and a comment. And I know that residents really appreciate the effort that went into working around that 50-inch oak, and a lot of creativity and flexibility on that. So thank you for that. A quick note: the Rebecca Williams Way, the southernmost Rebecca Williams Way sign got bent somehow during the course of this construction time, and it's still bent. If y'all wouldn't mind straightening that out. Tell me about, and one more thing, the marquee fencing that was not that well received immediately when it was installed has now, and it's not shown in these pictures, but the wood has now faded to a gray that really blends with the granite, and you can really see the vision now of the designers that was not immediately obvious when the fence was built. Not only that, but you can certainly see the need to have a fence between the park and one of our city's busiest intersections. So I'm getting wonderful feedback on that now and wanted to share that with you. And the shade structures are the current biggest community ask at Blackburn Park, and not specifically shade structures for the playground. It was hoped that it could be naturally shaded by trees, but it's my understanding that there are some underground issues that get in the way of that. So when you talk about shade structures there, are you referring, Lee, to shade structures for the playground?
That's going to be the intent, yes.
Okay, and we have various shade structures in various parks that have different characters, but it's my understanding at Blackburn Park that the vision is still in keeping with a shade structure that would blend with the natural environment more than being an eye-catching red, yellow, blue shade structure sort of thing.
We'll keep that in mind. I think we're looking at, as far as again, remaining budget would be some shade structures for it's not shown on the plan view that I have there, but for the perimeter sidewalk that goes around the playground, it'd be to try to get some cantilevered shade structures maybe over that sidewalk. And yes, we will be conscious of not having bright yellow, orange colors. We'll get it to blend with the rest of the playground.
Well, everything so far has been absolutely beautiful over there and people love it. So currently, is there any plan at all for shading the actual play structures?
Not for what we're looking at right now.
Okay, and I know that wasn't in the park plan, but perhaps moving forward, that's something we can prioritize based on community input.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'm going to move on to Linwood Park. So we are looking at the original master plan that did include the lazy river feature here in the middle. And after much discussion, it was determined to incorporate a splash pad into the park instead of the lazy river. So what we're looking at on this plan, splash pad in this area, just a lap pool beside it. The intent is for the existing soccer field to become a turf field. Just a few points from Linwood. We did have, I said that the discussion about the change from the lazy river to the splash pad, that effort worked through the oversight committee. CPL had several presentations for that. that did lead to a town hall meeting. We did have a very good turnout here at Linwood for that meeting. I believe we walked away from that. The citizens were all excited and accepting of the change to the splash pad. The bigger comment that we heard was the lack of parking. So we did work with CPL. We've added 2 small parking lots to the master plan. This lot was added, and the original intent, this lot off of Mendel Circle. So we did back up and added parking at those 2 locations. Just 2 items that we have run into that we're getting through. Design is still working through. The soils in that area have been interesting for the design team. We've had to make special efforts, additional soil investigations, additional borings, actually digging soil pits out in the middle of the soccer field to determine what's there. And all that will be addressed in the design. We are bringing the stormwater for this project up to some new city stormwater ordinances. That's being addressed right now. And because of the tightness of the site, the required detention will actually be an underground detention system under the soccer field. So we're working through those, CPL is working through those design issues. And right now we are on track to be able to open for next summer, or summer of 22, not this coming summer. Some comparisons, some pictures here. We're looking at a Google view of the existing pool, the size of that, an existing pavilion, and a good rendering of the splash pad that's coming. And like I said, there will be an additional, it's not just the splash pad, but the lap pool beside it. That pool is not going to be programmed for competition, the number of lanes nor the length, but it will be set up for lap swimming for the community. Comparison of the proposed pool house, the old pool house, the 2 pictures on the left, and the new renderings for the new pool house on the right. Small comparison to the Briarwood pool house that we've seen. More or less the same materials. This building is going to be a little bit bigger just because of the size of the facility that we're building. I'll note, so this entrance, this is the entrance side. This entry down here will be restrooms that will be accessible from the soccer field. That could be, depending on the timing and hardware for the doors, those restrooms would be accessible for other park users, even when the pool is closed and during the off season. So any questions on our Linwood project?
Questions for Linwood? I see nothing. Yeah, I have nothing myself.
All right, terrific. All right, well, let me move into Murphy Candler Park. Murphy Candler will actually have 9 projects inside the park. Just a quick rundown of the list: the South Trail Playground, Community Green, Horseshoe Road, North Boardwalk, and the Dam Boardwalk has become a sidewalk widening across the dam. Swimming pool parking lot, demo of the Scout Hut, and the new lake house. So let me address each one of those. So the South Trail, from the master plan, you can see the South Trail runs along Nancy Creek. It will connect from the football field parking lot over to an existing sidewalk that runs up along the tributary. And then we are adding actually a bridge connection. Let me get back over to the plan view, a bridge connection up at this area that will acts that will help not only the trail users, but it'll be a good addition for the baseball, softball use. That project is actually on the agenda to be awarded this coming Tuesday. So that contractor has been selected, and we'll be able to get started mid-March, probably before we would see anything out there. The playground project, it's also underway. All of the playground structures are in place. If we can get some dry weather, the site contractor will be back to complete the sidewalks. There's some stairs at this point that go down to the gravel parking lot on the road out here. And then this sidewalk comes back down, same entrance as that's existing. So the site contractor is expecting to be finished within a month. Again, if we can get through the rain Monday, he would hope that the rest of this coming week would be good work, better for working. The community green project, we're all aware of what's going on in this area. Again, that will follow the playground. We'll get that to bid here in the next few months. Entry off of the Horseshoe Road, these seat walls are going to be only about a foot tall, and it really has to do with just the lay of the land as we come down the slope to here. This stage area is just a sidewalk area, small seat wall behind it. There will be power outlets to this area. We are not adding any lighting. We are not creating an amphitheater type situation. I think as we've discussed, we're looking at that as continued use, good green open space for family use. I think we've listed, neighborhood groups could meet there, family gatherings could meet there. And the Horseshoe Road, as we will improve the parking along Candler Lake East, is still going to be a gravel lot, but it'll have sidewalk access for the playground area that sits in here. We are going to be adding parking along the road, gravel parking. There will be no trees removed for these parking spaces. CPL has worked to get those between the trees, and during construction, we'll do the same. We will pay close attention to the layout of those parking spaces. The road itself will follow the existing alignment, existing elevations. Once we got out there beyond the master plans, we realized that the asphalt has failed. There is no base under that asphalt, so the road does need to be reconstructed, but it'll be in the same location as the existing road. So these three photos bring those three projects together. You can get a good perspective of how the playground and the community green will fit within the Horseshoe Road. You can see on the master plan, that area, how it fits in beside the lake. And just a quick look of the blow up of the master plan in relation to the three projects as they are coming together. Another Murphy Candler project, the North Boardwalk. You can see from the master plan, this boardwalk will fit a little bit, just slightly to the south. It's a better fit from for the viewing looking north. CPL and their landscape architects went through a good process to get that located. That will be the next project out to bid. Our documents are with purchasing, so I'm going to be working with purchasing to get that out the door here soon. We will take a design build approach to this. My experience, and the same with Mac, on most of these boardwalks, design team spends a lot of time designing. Boardwalk contractor comes in, has some good details, better details, and we're usually asked to or requested to follow what they want to do. So we're just going to approach it. Let's let them design it. We'll review all that, get some standard boardwalk details out of that. There are several overlooks, widened areas along the boardwalk. The boardwalk will be 10 feet wide with these overlooks. And we do have a little bit larger viewing area that has been added, just with a little bit narrower approach. And I'm looking, that's about a 24 by 24 special viewing area there. So these are just some photos that were provided that will typical, that will be what our boardwalk looks like. When we're in the areas of the overlooks, it will have the railing using this same detail. And then along the boardwalk, where the height above the water allows, we'll just have this bumper system that again will just give a better experience, better viewing. It's still a safe condition because there is a minimum drop here if anything like that were to happen. So looking at the multi-use trail on the dam, again, from the master plan, we've just working through safe dams. We've had to make the change from the boardwalk actually down along the water level to, we've stepped back and we're looking at actually widening the sidewalk across the dam from its existing 6-foot sidewalk. And we'll be widening that by another 5 or 6 feet plus the overlooks, which will stick out, extend out another 6 feet. I believe there's seven of those overlooks that will be placed along the dam. Currently, those plans are with the state DNR Safe Dams program. That's not been a delay, but it's been an extra part of the process to get through. We did meet with them once or twice preliminarily, and they were very receptive to what we were doing, but the plan still had to go through the official process. And we're about halfway through their allotted time. I hope to be hearing back from them, I'm going to say within the next month, and then CPL will be able to proceed with their city county permitting and proceed through that project. Looking at the pool parking, really it'll be let to the same contractor, but we're looking at 2 different approaches. The south lot will just be patching, milling, and resurfacing this lot. And then what we're calling the north lot will actually be expanded. The existing lot is about half that size, and we'll be picking up an additional 29 parking spaces in this lot. I'll just comment, the access here is just a fire access that's required by bringing things up to current code. It will have bollards on it. It will not be for public access. It'll just be a gravel exit road for emergency vehicles or fire trucks if needed. I'll note that we are part of this parking lot project. We will be adding sidewalk that will extend down Candler Circle West. The sidewalk will connect the pool parking lot down to the existing, it's the new playground parking lot. So with this project, with the past playground project going all the way down to the lake house project, we will have sidewalk extending all the way up from the baseball fields all the way up to the swimming pool. Do want to point out that we have gone through the effort to minimize tree removal. The first column was the first approach from the designers, really just looking straight from master plans, and at council's directive, CPL did go back, spent quite a bit of time, but they were able to greatly reduce the tree removal required for the projects in Murphy Candler. Scout huts, we do want to point out the further inspections of that building. There is asbestos in that building. There's lead paint on that building and mold on the interior. So the remediation of those items, plus just the overall cost of removal, it was determined that it was really cost prohibitive to move that. So the design effort has started for demolition package, and it's the same process. We have to have construction drawings, permits, bid process, but we will be looking at the demo package to be able to take that building down in the latter part of the summer. And the lake house, there has been an extensive effort for public outreach. Here's a link. We did publish the public input report for that facility a month or two ago, and that report took all of the input from the public information meetings we've had, from the all the outreach that's gone on, and did summarize that in a very precise way to show what we're looking at. There is an open house scheduled for this coming Monday, virtual open house scheduled for Monday night, and the intent will be to show how that public input has led to the programming, the layout of the building, the size of the building, location of the building. And again, that'll be Monday night. I think we're scheduled for 6 to 7 on that. CPL will be making a presentation again for the intended proposed layout of that building, and the more precise location on that corner. So that's a long list within one park. Are any questions for Murphy Candler?
Lindley, do you have any questions for Murphy Candler?
Well, yes. Although, you know, of course, a lot of these projects have been discussed publicly at great length, but I do want to say that, you know, I know that I'm the broken record on tree preservation. It is an absolute top priority of the Murphy Candler community, and so you hear a lot from me on it. And I am greatly appreciative of the work and effort and creativity that went into making the parking along the horseshoe accommodate the situation where we have zero tree removal for parking. And I know that wasn't easy, and I know that it was time consuming and frankly costly. So I thank my fellow council members, mayor, everyone for supporting that effort by our staff to make that possible. And of course, moving forward on all the other projects, tree preservation should remain top of mind, which I know you well know, Lee, and just please always share that with our contractors and subcontractors, because it is so very important there at Murphy Candler. I wanted to ask you about the seat wall on the community green, because we had a situation at County Corner where the original concept, at least in my mind and perhaps in public's mind, was that at County Corner that those retaining walls that are stepped down would actually be something of a seating area where people would be able to sit and view and so forth. And as it turned out, because of their height, and I'm sure that was necessary because of the topography, but they're really not a practical seating area. And so great events are held there, but on the ground. Here, it seems that we have an opportunity for these seat walls to be a little bit more functional than being 12 inches high, because if they're 12 inches high, they still exist, but they're just not quite enough to sit down on comfortably for adult people. I mean, I don't know what the height is. I know there is a standard height for that use, and it's maybe 18 inches or 24 inches. It's not all that different. If there's any way to make that, to adjust that so that adult people can actually sit there, with their legs not dangling but planted, that I think would make the space more usable than just having the 12-inch steps there. And I hope that that's something you can take a look at and explore, just adjusting that slightly. And then even yesterday when I was in the park, the playground equipment is practically all built. It looks fantastic. It's really exciting, and congratulations. I know that the entire city is very excited about that equipment and that playground coming on board. So thanks for all your hard work on that.
Well, and I'll offer, we've already had users on the playground. One of the days the workers were actually still there working, and we had they had 3 or 4 young men, I guess 10 to 12-year-olds, but they went ahead and started the climbing nets, and I think they let them play for a few minutes before they, I hope, politely requested that they leave. So, and I've had actually 1 or 2 positive emails about parents looking forward to that area. It's good to receive those emails.
Absolutely. And I'm hearing great things too, and a lot of excitement. So we'll look forward to a big announcement when that comes fully on board and the caution tape is ripped off.
Okay. And yes, I will, the seat walls that are across the lawn, those are, just looking at grading plans, only about 12 inches tall. The seat wall that's around the back of the stage area is the 17, 18 inches typical for a seat wall. But I will reach out to the design team and discuss that as far as the walls that are across the lawn.
Thank you. I think that would be a disappointment if they are not usable, and a 12-inch seat wall is actually not a seat wall. It's just a very small step, and it's not comfortable to sit on or picnic on or anything else. So thank you for looking at that. That's all I have about Murphy Candler today.
Okay.
The pool parking, I was under the impression when we talk about connectivity and trails that there was going to be some kind of connectivity to the trails on the lake trail, so that people could, if they so choose, park back there and walk on the trail itself safely to the ball fields or whatever like that off the back end.
Mayor, yes, we're aware that we've had discussions for a connection back here, and I think we're looking at, we will take another look at including that in this project, or if it needs to be accomplished
In another project.
But we are aware of the need and the desire for that.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions about Murphy Candler? Seeing none, we're moving on.
Okay, let me move on to Ashford Park. So the master plan for Ashford Park does, the centerpiece for that is the new splash pad area with some seat walls around that, new pavilion. Master plan has additional pavilions, some lawn area work that that is not included in this program. But what we are accomplishing is the splash pad and the new pavilion. That is under contract with ICANN. They started work back in the fall, and the plans and schedule are for that to be completed, for the splash pad to be open in the spring. A couple of pictures from Current construction site, just the old pavilion that's set down at the bottom of the hill, close to the playground. The new pavilion sits up at the top of the hill. Worked quite a bit with the oversight committee to get some details added. This is a pre-engineered structure, but they were insistent on some of the hardware, some of the colors of the wood, even the size of the wood columns. This will have Brookhaven granite wrapped around the columns up, I believe, about 3 feet. And yesterday they were able to get sidewalk. There's an additional sidewalk perimeter around the building that was placed yesterday as well. They've gotten started on the staircase that runs from the pavilion down to the splash pad playground area at the bottom of the hill. Just a couple of views again, seat wall around the splash pad. I believe this back wall has the granite, the full length at this point. And here's a good view looking what will be the splash pad sitting in this area, looking back into the park. I'll just note the splash pad itself, the DeKalb County Board of Health looks at this facility as a swimming pool. So all of the same safety issues, signage, showers, restroom access, emergency telephone, all of those same items are included in this project, as well as a perimeter fence that isolates the splash pad. A couple of renderings of the splash pad. Again, granite columns, Brookhaven granite, very colorful. We'll be following this same colors, same layout for the pad. It'll have a rubber soft surface placed in that area. So they are currently on schedule to be ready to open this for the spring. Any questions with that?
John, do you have any questions?
No, it looks great. Best splash pad in Brookhaven.
Yeah, it's going to be a good facility. We've got good contractors, the pool contractor, the fountain contractor, the reputable contractors should be giving us a very good product out here.
Excellent. Moving on.
So moving
Well, actually, real quick, backtrack.
Yeah.
So we're not doing the grass area. So is the court currently staying as is right now?
Yes, we are. You're correct. The master plan includes an established lawn area, irrigated lawn area up here. That's but the park program does not include that work. So this court will stay in place for now. We have stairs coming up to that point, and the new pavilion sits at the top of the hill off of that court.
Okay. And there's no basketball court, there's no hoops or anything there right now, correct? It's just a flat pad.
Correct.
It's a good place for, maybe a futsal type scenario.
Futsal?
Yeah, futsal.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So moving into Briarwood Park, master plan included garden area, extensive trail improvements, classroom area, and the renovation of the existing pool and pool house. Once I think detailed work got looking at that at the old existing pool and pool house, it was determined pretty quickly that it could not really be brought up to code. So the decision was made for the fully new facility. So the rendering here from Los is a very good picture of what was accomplished. If you go back, we did have a deck breaking ceremony back before things got started. That went over very well. That contract was completed by Waterworks Aqua Design. The pool was able to be open for just a few weeks at the end of last summer. Just some construction issues. We've talked about the unsatisfactory soil that was found under the new pool house that had to be dealt with. Working with Georgia Power during the pandemic cost us some time, and we were under construction when the pandemic started. The contractor did continue to work through that, but it did have an effect and a slowdown on site. And as we went through, there were some issues with materials and equipment coming from what turned out to be anything coming from a factory setting in the north became an issue as far as getting materials. And I have several slides here of going to really just pass through these. If y'all want to go back and take a quick look for the construction progress photos, excavation of the pool getting started, rebar getting set, the bottom of the pool, building foundations. Again, concrete bottoms of the pool, picture of shotcrete going down on the walls. I will back up from, I believe there's a picture maybe underneath here that of the helical piles that had to be installed under the pool house. Again, because of the soil conditions on that site. Again, Brookhaven granite going up around the exterior of the wall. Final siding being put up. Bottom of the pool with the tile going in. Pool deck going down inside of the pump room. The pool features on the zero entry going in. Georgia Power finally getting going for the power, and some of the items at the tail end of the project did have to go in sequence that required power to the site. So that even though everything was laid out, we still had to wait on that a little bit. Plastering of the pool, filling of the pool, city staff being trained on the new in the new pump room, and a good picture of the finished facility with the pool house in the back and our entry with our new sign. Councilman Park did have a good ribbon cutting ceremony. Had several kids come out. The water wasn't too cold at that point, so that did work out quite well. Any questions on the pool portion of Briarwood Park?
I just want to say that is the best pool in Georgia, and leave it at that.
That picture, it looks really good. Contractors, again, Waterworks is probably the top pool contractor in the city of Atlanta, and ICANN that did the building and the site work. Again, very respectable contractor. Took good care in what they were doing. It's turned out to be a good facility.
Excellent.
So going into phase 2 of Briarwood, we are looking again at garden area, trail system, little classroom, outdoor classroom, some improvements around the tennis courts. We'll have a new pavilion down around the garden, a new pavilion for tennis use, and parking lot improvements around the rec center. So the budget for Briarwood phase 2, we are dealing with the overall budget minus the pool budget. So we are looking at some prioritization of our park bond master plan items. Design is continuing with the whole thing, and then we'll step back, do some estimates for those, and work through the oversight committee and council to determine if anything has to be or can't be provided, and prioritize what is provided. So just a plan view of the ongoing design. Again, as you come in, some additional parking here at the front, improvements to the garden area, and working on the trail system, which will require some bridge work down in this area and parking lot improvements. Just note the entry off of Briarwood Way will be closed, and actually that'll become part of the trail system. So our entry sign will be relocated to the Briarwood Road entry. This is a view looking down the hill that will actually be removed. We'll be replacing the pavilion, improving the gardening. If you go back and think about the pavilion that was used at Ashford Park, we'll be using that same type structure for the pavilion at the garden area. Parking lot improvements, and provide some seating beside the tennis courts. So any questions on Briarwood Phase 2?
Any questions? Seeing none.
Okay. So moving into Brookhaven Park, Lowson Associates did the design, the master planning for Brookhaven. That was separate from the Greenberg master planning efforts, and master plan includes dog park improvements, including replacing the existing pavilion. Overall, it would include a stage area, a new building up or in the existing garden area, improvements along Peachtree Road, as well as the playground. What we are looking at this point, because of ongoing discussion with the county and the situation we're in with the county, improvements on the county side of the existing property line are not planned right now to be in the first construction project. So again, we would not be doing the stage area or the building beside the existing garden, nor would we be doing anything in the first phase with the frontage on Peachtree Road, which had intended, it would have included the gateway and a good sidewalk trail down into the park. So we are proceeding right now on the city side of the property line. We're fully replacing the pavilion at the dog park, greatly improving the playground area. It'll have a restroom, small pavilion at the playground, and a larger pavilion down at the bottom of the hill from there. Now, on the county side of the property line, we are proposing to improve this parking lot. I believe later I've got maybe a number of 50 plus parking spaces that'll be provided in that lot. Just some pictures of the existing parking lot showing the need for improvements and detailed outlined parking for the dog park. Again, here's the number we're looking at 54 total spaces. I could not provide a number right now for how many cars can fit in there, but it would be a lot less than the 54 that we'll be looking at. The playground area, let me jump ahead here. Just some pictures of the existing playground is just this one small structure. So we would be looking at this full area. Actually basically almost a 30-foot tall, 3-story tower. Same material as what we're installing at the Murphy Candler Playground, but just few more features. Back up to the layout here. Again, restroom, small pavilion area. This will be a turf field, kind of a specific for the playground, but just a more open space turf field. I do think there's one small feature in here. And again, here's our property line that we'll be working with everything on the city side of the property line right now. A couple of pictures of the existing dog park pavilion. Those restrooms are not open at this point. It's just, I don't know the age of this, but as you can see, the roofing, the siding, there's not much more than providing shade at this point. Proposed building will be almost replacing that exact building. We'll be coming in, it'll be restrooms, covered area, pavilion, patio area with benches on one end and grills provided on the other. That's the same layout, same footprint as the existing. We'll pick up the Brookhaven granite around the side. I think the architecture's cementitious siding and metal roofing. So any questions on Brookhaven Park?
Madeline, you have some questions on Brookhaven Park?
Yes, thank you. Do we anticipate, because of the delays from the county, that we're going to have to change any of the plans, maybe based on if topography or anything like that has changed since the time the plans were done?
We do not anticipate having to change anything. The grade now, and I say that as long as the parking lot is the parking lot is able to be included. There is a grade change and elevation change through this area that if we were to be at the point where the parking lot could not be improved, there would have to be some engineering rework through this. And even this dotted line is the detention facility, the detention pond for the park. And right now that is on both sides of the property line. So we would have to look at that area also to make that work. But it would just be the access to get to our side that we'd have to look at. The building, the playground, the pavilions, I think all of those could proceed.
Great, thank you. Those are all the questions that I have right now. Thanks so much for going through that. I know we're eager and ready to get this going.
Yes, there's, don't know if everybody's aware, but there's a lot of conversations at much higher levels trying to get all this worked out with easements and agreements to between the two parties to get this going.
I real quick questions on the turf area. How big of is that turf area? Is that like a half basketball? Is that a basketball size? I mean, yeah, right. I think that's as good as
basketball court size, probably. I mean, you can see it's more of an amoeba type shape instead of something you could fit a court into. I will have to back up and maybe get you some little bit more exact dimensions on that.
Okay. That'd be great.
Okay. So that gets us through all of the parks. Let me let me just get to the, our current schedule, trying to complete these items going forward. Briarwood Pool, of course, that's been finished. Blackburn's finished. Ashford Park is under construction. We're looking at Briarwood Park. Actual construction would be closer to the end of this year. Brookhaven Park, this permitting is just showing it up to this point. So this is going to slide a little bit as we continue our discussion with the county and access for that. Linwood Park, again, completing design. That design work again is backing up, having to revise some stormwater design to get that corrected. And construction, again, we're looking at being able to finish before swim season of next year. Flurry of projects in Murphy Candler. Playgrounds under construction. South Trail is, like I said, would be awarded this coming week. Our North Boardwalk and Community Green, starting discussions with purchasing. Those will be the next two out the door. Horseshoe Road, we've talked about, we don't want that construction to take place until the Community Green is finished, just to keep construction traffic off of the road from interfering with each other. Dam sidewalk, again, we're sitting with the state at this point, get through that permitting and then back to the city county permitting to get that out. Our pool parking lot is in good shape. We're already at the point we're not going to interrupt baseball season or the swim season. That will be ready to go and get started next September, or this coming September at the end of the swim season. The Scout Hut demo, that design work has started, and we can see that puts the demo out toward the end of this year. And a tentative schedule for the lake house, CPL, looking at getting through our open house event, and then design effort, permitting, and construction would be ongoing, or starting early next year for the construction of the lake house. So any questions on our intended master completion schedule there?
Yeah, this is the first time we've seen it laid out in such a way, at least that I'm aware of. So this is a really good visual of estimated scheduling. Obviously, knowing that when contracting and or permitting when orange gets longer, the entire project gets longer.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, permitting has been a bear on these projects, but we're CPL's working through those, and even the bid contracting, the timeline for those. Again, working with purchasing here at the city, we will, those 3 months can become 2 months if everything were to fall in line. Pick up some time for each one of those.
Yes, Lindley.
I'd just like to request that this particular slide be circulated to us all. I mean, I know you can circulate the whole presentation, which is terrific, but if you can just circulate this as an individual slide for purposes of our sharing. Thank you, Lynn.
I will.
Yep. And so we're looking. So just real quick, the lake house, when we go to bid the lake house, we will have, it looks like we'll have all other bids for all other projects done.
Yes. At that point, right. Construction would not be finished, but yes, everything else should be out the door.
Okay. So sounds.
So I will, at that request, yes, I'll get this specific slide out to everybody to for further looking at and any more questions. and I've included, this is just from the park bond resolution. This was the attachment. So this is the budget and the line items that were included in the referendum. Just to be able to compare these items to what's being built and what's being included in the current contracts.
I'd also like to request that you send that to us. We get a lot of questions about exactly what was approved by the voters, and this is a very concise list because the exhibit is lengthier. So thank you for sending that out, and everybody can see what it was that was approved.
I will. So any other questions overall, or if anything else comes to mind? Of course, you know where Brian and I are, and get your questions and emails to us.
Any other questions for Lee before we take a quick little break for anyone to? Okay, thank you so much, Lee.
You're welcome.
At this point, Christian, I say we should take a 5-minute break or so.
At the pleasure of the council, it's 10:37 now. I just want to round it to 10:45.
Let's go to 10:45.
All right, we'll see everybody back at 10:45, and Brian will be up next. Welcome back, everyone. I just got a note from the mayor that he will be running 2 to 3 minutes late. So we'll wait for him.
Hmm.
Hope you're doing it from home.
Morning, Brian.
Good morning, Councilmember Gebbia. How are you?
Excellent. That was a really good presentation by Lee.
Thank you. You're up early on the West Coast.
Well, it's doesn't seem early anymore. Well, you always have a lot going on in your department. It's
We're a busy group. So
Yeah, you are. You do so much good work. We're so appreciative of what you do.
thank you, sir. We work so others can play.
That's a very good theme. I love it.
Yes, Christian.
Or something like it. Yeah. You want me to pick it up or you want me? Yeah. Oh boy. Brian, so great to see your pretty face.
Thank you, Councilmember Park. You too.
Let's see here.
Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. Your guys came early. So, whew, is everyone here? Looks like it. Let's, Brian.
All right,
start us
Mr. Mayor, after a brief recess, Brian will give an update on one of the system-wide projects, invasive species, and then it'll be followed up by Robert Mullis, who will talk about security. We're not talking about lake dredging, which was a system-wide one because it's done. It's been done for a while now. So Brian, followed by Robert.
Good morning, Mayor, members of council. Thank you for inviting us today to the City Council Advance to talk about our invasive plant removal program. Today, I'm just going to do a quick presentation on kind of give everybody an update on where we are. As you know, we're 2 years into this process, and with invasive plant, it's one of those processes that it seems to never end due to Mother Nature. So getting started. As part of the park bond referendum that was passed by our Brookhaven residents in 2018 included funding for the system-wide invasive plant removal. There was $1 million that was allocated through the park bond for invasive plant removal in the parks and other city-owned green space areas. To date, as of February this year, we've spent $416,075.93 on the invasive plant removal program. Back in 2019, when we started this program, it was put out to bid by the city. Ed Castro Landscape was the contractor that was selected and approved by the mayor and council for invasive plant removal in the city parks and green space areas. The city has also worked with Cascade Springs Forestry on invasive plant removal in our Ashford Forest Preserve, as well as one of our newest additions, La Vista Park. this spring will mark year number 3 of invasive plant removal within our program. As you can see on the next slide here, I have a map of all of our city park facilities. And if you notice, there's a red star by just about every one of our park facilities.
Excuse me, Brian, could you switch your display? We're on the current and next slide.
Okay, sorry.
There you go.
Apologies. Okay, sorry. On this slide here, I have a picture of all of our park maps that you can see on our park website. The stars indicate that these are the parks that we have done invasive plant removal in throughout our process here of the last 2 years going into year 3. There's only 3 parks that have not been touched to date with invasive plant removal. That's Ashford Park, our new Blackburn Park 2, and our newly acquired Langford Park. All the other parks that you see in our park system have been touched one way or another with invasive plant removal. So to have 16 out of 19 parks touched with invasive plant removal, that's a great number. And by doing the invasive plant removal in these parks, we're also increasing the number of green space activity areas that we can be used for activities within our parks. These next several slides are several of the parks that we have done invasive plant removal. I did not include all the parks. I just did several of our main parks. So the first slide here is Linwood Park. You can see the before and after shots, what a difference it makes. It's amazing just looking at some of this to see that there's actually what's behind everything and how it opens up our facilities and our parks for our users. The next one is Blackburn Park. This is along the trail if you're coming from the community garden looking back towards Chamblee. As you can see on the left side, all the underbrush, privet and everything in the before slide. In the after slide, you can see what a difference. You can see the trees and everything else going on in the background after the invasives were removed right there along the tree line. There's another one at Blackburn. This is right there at the tennis courts. As you come off the trail right there at the parking lot below the tennis court, tennis building. The slide on the left, the before slide, shows how much underbrush was in there, how you couldn't even see the tennis courts, the fencing, and you could barely make out a couple of the light poles. And the slide on the right, the after slide, where the hillside has been completely cleared of invasives, you can see how much nicer it looks. You have a clearer view of the tennis courts. And plus there was a lot of tennis balls that were in that area that we were able to pick up. The next one is Murphy Candler, probably our most used park, especially during the pandemic. We've seen an increased number. This is a picture of the hillside or one of the trail areas on the northwest side of the park. You can see how it's overgrown with all the English ivy along the ground. And they've come back as part of that invasive plant removal and gotten all the English ivy up and how much it opens up. And you can see the undergrowth or the natural ground cover, and which will provide for better sustainability in our parks. It helps save the trees, keeps the ivy off of them, and it will allow for the more natural understory to come back. Skyland Park. This is an area down behind one of the dog park, the small dog park. You can see how thick it is on the right side in the before picture. You can't make out the school. And as they've started on the after, you can see in the after picture where they've cleared out, you can actually see the new John R. Lewis Elementary School in the background. North Druid Hills Green Space, right across from Cross Keys High School. This is a picture of the before and after. As you can see, on the before picture, how thick it was in there before Ed Castro was able to get in there and do some clearing. And then on the after slide, you can see after they've cleared how much more open it is, how much nicer it looks. Even driving down North Druid, looking back into the park, you can see all the way to the back end of the park now, which makes it a lot safer for those that want to get in there, walk around and just admire what a beautiful tree canopy and green space we have inside the city here. This is Brookhaven Park. This is done behind the dog park area. You can see there's a lot of privet underbrush there in the before picture, and how much nicer it looks, or how clear it is now, which provides more usable space in the after picture. So more areas for our citizens to use, more areas for the dogs to run around in. So you can see what an improvement it does make to our parks by doing the invasive plant removal. And as I stated, this is an ongoing process. Just kind of summarize it. Ed Castro has reviewed all the parks they've done their invasive plants removal in the last 2 years. The findings are predictable with the heavy mechanical removals in year 1, total 2,800 staff hours. That's a year's worth of hours for one full-time employee. And they've reduced that in year 2 by half to 1,300 staff hours. Have basically suppressed all the vertical ivy as well as the upright shrub layers that include privet, Elaeagnus as the main offenders. This year, they're estimating 740 staff hours down to, and about 25% of the mechanical and 75% of the spray and handwork to be within those percentages, and focus on what would be the large shrubs that are trying to come back up. The method is still on this is still to cut down those and spray the open cut on the first spray. Then the second round of the plant is to come, the plant tries to come to life and cut the plant if it comes back. This process will be repeated until the plant finally decides it just gives up. The spraying and the handwork takes full effect. The remaining layer of the invasive plants include the low evergreen ground cover, which is the English ivy, which seems to be the main culprit in most of our parks, especially Murphy Candler, North Druid Hills, green space area. So there's a lot of that they're working on to get, and that's usually a long rooted plant that's very tough to pull up. So year 3, that's what they're going to be focusing on. This year, achieved through spraying and the plant after wounding it, and it flushes with new growth. This would be an approach at Murphy Candler, Blackburn, and Fernwood, and Parkside. Kudzu control has been successful at Linwood, Brookhaven, and Skyland and Briarwood as well. All of these parks will need to be sprayed aggressively to suppress the spring flush of kudzu, and two other sprays throughout the rest of the summer. And that concludes my presentation or my update on the invasive plant removal.
Thank you, Brian.
Questions? Yes, Lindley.
Brian, this is fantastic. And, all of this, of course, saves our trees because the invasive species can choke them out. And so, it's wonderful for our tree protection as well as for the usability of the parks, as well as for safety, which you didn't mention, but we used to have a lot of not a lot, but we used to have safety incidents in our parks that had to do with individuals who could conceal themselves literally in the undergrowth, and this makes our parks safer. I do have a question for you though. Way back in the beginning, when we first began to talk about removing invasives, there was and remains a desire to do so with as little negative environmental impact as possible, particularly with regard to the products used and so forth. And I remember that we explored the possibility of doing it all by hand, and that was absolutely not possible. It couldn't be done. It couldn't be done basically at any cost, with an effort this vast. But we remain concerned in our District 1 parks with the impact of the products that are used, and particularly in our water environments like Murphy Candler Park, and what might get flushed into the lake from the effort. Can you address that and how the contractors handle that concern and minimize it?
Yes, ma'am. Usually what they try to stay out of the stream buffer with their chemicals. Anything inside the stream buffer would be done by hand, pretty technically most of the time. But they've been very good about not spraying within our 25-foot stream buffer and staying out of that with the chemicals. and just making that a priority just to do all that invasive plant removal by hand.
Okay, thank you. Also, do they do targeted spraying or?
Yes, they do spot spray. Yes, when they come in and spray the plants, they do it with a backpack sprayer, just like you would use in your house or your home yard, with the tip nozzle, and they just do isolated spot spraying on the plants. It's not wide. It's not broadcast. It's spot.
Any, John, I see you unmuted. Did you want to?
Oh, I didn't mean to unmute. I'm sorry.
Okay, Joe.
Yeah, Brian, yeah, this is a very good presentation. Thank you for the pictures. It was a picture's worth 1,000 words, obviously. So I have to assume that the problem that we face in these removals was because of years and years and years of neglect.
Yes, sir.
And you've spent out of $1 million, just over $400,000 so far, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the number of man hours required every year to continue to work on this has reduced.
Yes.
So how much further would the balance of the $600,000 approximately, how far out would that take us in years to maintain this type of preventive maintenance?
I would say we've got at least probably another, we've done 3 years. This will be year number 3. So I would say we've probably got at least 3, maybe 4 years left being able to use these funds, depending on how much as each year, as you can see, the amount of hours needed to control the invasive continues to go down and almost gets cut in half. So I would expect us to at least have at least 3 years left of funding, if maybe a little bit more going forward as we continue forward.
Obviously, the reason for my, maybe not obviously, but the reason why I'm asking is it's always cheaper to maintain it rather than let it drift aside and stay on top. So we probably need to be thinking about a formalized budget procedure on this when these funds run out, because this was under the park bond.
Yes, sir.
We probably have 2 ways to do that. Either make sure we set up a category to budget just for this down the road, starting in about 3 years or when anticipated ends of these funds come to be, or potentially and hopefully, if we should proceed with the second park bond to finish the rest of the parks, make sure that we put enough in there for this category, set it aside so that we can take it out for maybe a decade.
Right, because invasive plant removal, it's going to continue to be an ongoing process. Birds coming into the parks that, they bring seeds off of other plants that they've been on. And that's one way that spreads the invasive plants. And it's just Mother Nature, doing her thing of having rich soil, which allows for invasive plants to grow in.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, well, this is just, I think, a wake-up call for council to be thinking about what phase 2 of this is going to be when these funds run out. But thank you again for the presentation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So I'll have some, if not. Okay, so almost to Joe's point, is this something with our new in-house staff, park maintenance staff, that we could start picking up as it becomes smaller, and have them do it? And obviously, if we need to provide training for master gardener level training so that people can identify invasives, or at least crew chiefs can, and the help in the removal as they're maintaining the parks as an ongoing thing. I would think that as we get the major large chunks of it done, that this goes into the maintenance category. And with our new staff, this is something we could do with our new staff, basically.
As we bring our new maintenance team on, Mayor, I think our focus, we're going to have 17 new staff members with us, and they're going to be focusing on the 19 parks that we have, the FEMA lots, the right-of-ways. They've got a lot on their plate during the months when invasive plants are really starting to kick off in the spring. So I'm not sure if that will be something that we'll be able to task them with, just because they're going to be focusing on maintaining our parks, keeping them at a level that we've not had in the past with our current park maintenance provider. So that'd be something we can definitely look at going forward. But at this time, I would not commit to that because I'm just not sure if they're going to have the time or the bandwidth to be able to do that going forward.
I think the short answer is we don't know what the level of effort would be for maintenance after we've run out of bond money in about 3 years. And it may be that it is so far beaten down, for lack of a better term, and the new in-house maintenance staff is, running and very efficiently, that it could be put in. And that would be the intent, because it wouldn't be eligible for a second bond issue because it's operations. It's in the first bond issue because it's the expense of knocking it down in the first place. So I think the long-term goal is definitely to have it in the maintenance budget, done by the maintenance staff, but I think it's too early to say what that will be.
Yeah. Again, not saying year one or anything like that, but I think we do need to look at, the city needs to look at as an institution about throwing this into maintenance, and staffing levels and staffing expertise is what we bring in. But also goes into the education of our staff. We've been such great with education on our folks in different areas, but I'd always hope that our in-house staff, maintenance folks, that we give educational tools that will help us and help them, in the future. Like again, same with the master gardener programs or other programs like that can increase their education, and allows us to use the best techniques possible moving forward with grass cutting, tree maintenance, all the different things that are out there that we can educate our staff, so we don't have to go out to specialists. That could be, I think something that we do. And again, it goes to the heart of us trying to, be good employers to our folks, to give them education, to have them take on better tasks, more tasks, and then if they have to move on, they move on, but are better for it. So with that, is there anything else, folks? Seeing none. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Mayor,
All
members
right.
of council.
In the next category, and I'll stay on invasive for just a second here, because the next category is security. Absent direction from the council, we're going to continue to spend the balances to improve the invasives until it's out. But if we can fit it in the operating budget and get everybody on board, then there might be a balance. Same thing with security. We're about to talk about security. I would recommend we keep that project, that sub-project, open until we essentially get all the projects done. And of course, we'll be implementing phase 2 of the Peachtree Creek Greenway and phase 3. So there'll always be opportunities to improve security. So with that, I'll turn it over to Robert Mullis, our IT director, who worked both with Brian and the police department on our security upgrades. Robert?
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Does everybody see my presentation?
Yes, I can see it.
All right, great. I'll just go through this, and if you have any questions, just speak up and I'll stop. All right, so basically I was charged with a couple things in this bond project. One was to check the cell coverage in parks. 2 is do security upgrades in our parks buildings that are staffed. And then the police department was tasked with the license plate readers, the standalone license plate readers, and the security cameras around the city. So in December of 2019, we had a company called Beam come and walk our parks, and that was pre Peachtree Creek Greenway. At that time, we identified some spots that needed some work, and I contacted the carriers, and each of them have a 1 to 2 year build out for their projects for improving their service. So we identified those places to them that needed some upgrading. Then we went back after the Peachtree Creek Greenway was finished, and we had Beam do the same thing there. And I'll show you this slide. So you've seen this before. You saw the slides of the other parks, I think probably in January of last year. But this is the Peachtree Creek Greenway. Looks really good. All 4 carriers. Now, at this time, T-Mobile and Sprint have merged, so there's actually just 3 carriers, and they'll eventually merge their technologies into one. And then I'll run through some of these other slides of the parks just to refresh your memory. Stop me if you want to see anything particular, but generally most of our parks are good. Even the places that are in red, the carriers have told me that a person should still be able to get a 911 call through. So here is Briarwood Park. This is Brookhaven Park. Looks mostly green. Georgian Hills, Linwood Park, Murphy Candler. It's a little more challenging just because of the terrain. This is, where is this? Skyland Park, mostly green. So to date, first of all, any questions on the cell phone coverage testing that we did?
Any question? And this was pre 5G, correct?
Correct. In 2019, 5G was just being built out. And then so we did the similar test this time with Peachtree Creek Greenway, not doing 5G because I think a lot of the carriers are still working on their 5G, even though they say they have it. It's still, spotty.
I do have a question about Murphy Candler Park since it seems to have the biggest issues. Yeah, if we could take a look at that again, especially, wow, yeah, for Sprint and T-Mobile, and those are 2 popular carriers, of course. What is the time frame? Do both Sprint and T-Mobile plan to extend their coverage? And by the way, didn't they merge?
They did. Sprint and T-Mobile are one company now. I think they go by T-Mobile.
All right. But what's the time frame that people can expect better coverage there around Murphy Candler?
Well, all of our parks typically are surrounded by residential, and of course, those are the people who are paying for the plans and giving the companies money. They've all have 1 to 2 year upgrade plans, so they'll identify an area, let's say at the bottom end of Murphy Candler Park, that is weak on coverage. They'll put a project together that says we're going to go in and put in some small cell or maybe a new tower or whatever to upgrade that area. So they're all looking 1 to 2 years out and across their whole infrastructure. So each of them, we gave them all the carriers these plans and showed them where we identified the weak areas. So they have this in their their project plans and they know where the weak areas are.
Okay, it sounds like though that the downside of it is that folks can expect I would assume, small modest tower to go in to rectify the situation?
No, not necessarily. Public Works, Christian, do you know how many small cell permits we've gotten over the last year? Small cell.
At least 100, and
Okay.
they're obviously less. The small cell are less intrusive than a normal cell tower because they're just a single pole with equipment on top. I'd like to stress, it's a weak signal, not a no signal. In some cases, and we have done this, we've asked particular carriers on very spot locations to see if they can expedite. They typically don't. The good thing about this particular park, it is surrounded by residential, lots of parking, typically lots of people in there.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the northern end. I mean, the southern end where all the carriers have bad coverage down near the ballparks is an inconvenience, and we look forward to getting that rectified. But the Sprint T-Mobile issues around the north end of the park where it's not as close to residential, and residential isn't as accessible, and there's a greater danger of someone being out there alone needing assistance, and there's a lot of red there, which doesn't that mean no signal?
The blue, it's lower than red, but that's not no signal.
The red though, that's what I said. Doesn't the
The
red?
red, yeah.
Red is actually, blue is lower than red.
You're right. Red is no signal. So
No, red is not no signal.
oh,
None of these are no signal. It's just the signal drops off. It's, basically green, yellow, red, blue, and blue being the weakest signal.
I think it's important for people to realize our participants, the public is, this isn't no coverage. These are just variations of signal strength.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
And that being a low-lying area below the dam there, I imagine that the towers that are in the area there have a hard time penetrating down into that lowest area.
As all of us baseball parents and former baseball parents know very well.
Right.
Yes,
All right,
that's the,
I'll make a note to reach out to Sprint and T-Mobile about this particular park and try to get some information on what their plans are.
thank you.
You're
yeah,
welcome.
yeah, that area is especially, you lose signal and data. And there's a lot of people there at all times. Cussing at their phones.
All right.
Yeah, but also on a park aspect, I knew that the leagues were streaming games because of COVID, and they had a hard time because of signal issues doing that. And so there's a park quality and operational aspect to that also, that the stronger the signal we have there, the ability to have those games broadcasted on the internet. It's really cool now because of COVID, but I suspect even in the future, connectivity with grandparents and aunts and uncles watching their, family members come to bat. I know it was very well liked and appreciated by the leagues, but they did have a lot of technical issues when they did that.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this was 4G and LTE. So, we're promise that 5G is going to make it a whole lot better.
When you do reach out to them, do mention that we are doing projects in the area, and it's a good time for projects to be built.
All right. Yep, I can do that.
If
right.
if they they need help locating stuff, we can help them.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Okay, so as far as indoor security, we've added upgraded security systems at both Linwood and Briarwood. When the Briarwood pool was finished, we extended those cameras and security to the pool area as well. So you can see there the number of cameras that we've got at each of those locations. We're also planning to extend that security to the new Linwood pool when it's built, which will need a conduit from the building to the pool area in order to do that, but that'll incorporate all that together. And then the license plate readers, these are the ones that we've got in place so far. Brian and Gary have been working together to identify locations for those. And I'm sure there will be a lot more of those to come.
Are those license plate readers simply for who comes in and exits the park?
Correct, for entrance and exit.
And to your knowledge, have we ever had a ping on that's accomplished the goal of?
I'm not familiar with that information. So was Gary going to be on the call, Christian?
No, Gary's actually doing the polar bear plunge today.
Oh, right.
That worked. I just got a picture. They look frigid, and I hear the water temperature is 39 degrees. But sorry for the extra information, but no, Gary's in the water.
Okay. We can, I'll ask that question and send it to the council.
Excellent.
I know we are using them, Mayor. We have some illegal dumping going on down at Briarwood Park. And we are going to be checking those because we have some times. So it's an invaluable tool.
Yeah, I know it's invaluable. I know that eventually it'll help solve a crime or solve an issue. So, I look forward to it. So.
All right, moving on. Here's just some sample pictures of the cameras, the newly installed cameras. This is the Briarwood Recreation Center and the pool. This is Linwood.
Are these all current right now?
Yeah, this was from yesterday.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it says live, but I pulled these yesterday.
Stand by.
I'm sorry.
Stand by.
Yeah. One of the one of the things I'd mention is some of these outside cameras actually have 4 different cameras mounted in them. So they're actually 4-way cameras. So we have a lot of video going on covering these areas. These are Peachtree Creek Greenway. We've got 18 cameras there. And here's just a summary. As I mentioned, we did the cell phone coverage study. We've got all staffed buildings upgraded with security, and we'll also be doing that for the new pool building and the community center. Then the LPRs are being installed in areas in the parks where it's appropriate. And as of today, the budget was, we were budgeted for $220,000, and we've spent right around $100,000 with more locations to come.
And so we're installing cameras and LPRs as these projects are coming up while we're building ongoing. So horseshoe, for lack of a better term, you know, I know we have some cameras there, but when we do the projects, we'll have LPRs and cameras.
Yeah, and I think there's already 1 camera in place on the Horseshoe Road,
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
I'm pretty sure there was. Or I've been told that there was going to be 1.
There's 2. The power hasn't been turned on yet. We're still
Gotcha.
waiting for Georgia Power.
No, Christian, the power has been turned on. Everything's operable.
Yay!
So, but, and well, is the idea that we'll have basically every parking spot, any car area that someone's coming into a park will have coverage, LPR coverage, and
Well,
Yeah,
not every parking spot, but you know,
yeah, not every parking spot, but if you're coming into the park your LPR is going to hit.
Correct.
Robert, were you going to try a live feed?
Yep, pulling that up now. Give me just a second. And let me share my screen.
So these live feeds, it's restricted access. The police department supervisors and above can see these live in their vehicles. And I have one on my desk here at work, obviously, too. But this is what they look like live. Robert,
You were there,
for a
Yep.
and you
second.
got to the,
Let me
nope,
drop
that's
my,
your emails.
there you go. Can you see that?
Yep.
No, that's your email.
That's your email.
Well, all right, hang on.
There you are.
There it is. All right, everybody see that?
You can see the cars in North Druid Hills in the top right one going by.
So anyone who has permissions to these systems can pull all of these up. Some of these are the private cameras. You can see they're historic. Brookhaven, we have access to those. They have to have it's usually, I believe, supervisor or above who have access to these as they need them. And also it depends on bandwidth, of course. But these are all live views.
So Brian and Harry and I, when there's a bad storm, we'll actually use the cameras to check on water levels on the Peachtree Creek Greenway, in addition to the flood gauges.
And we'll also have this tied into our new large display in the new police building, the EOC display, which has 15 monitors.
Excellent. Lily,
So
you had a question.
How many cameras?
Joe, let Lily go first, and then you go.
All right.
Okay.
Robert, if you can send me a screenshot of what you're showing there, it's helpful to show communities who are in the decision-making process about whether to have cameras, the communities listed there that have them, and how easy it is for our police to plug right in if an issue arises. So if you could circulate that, I appreciate it.
All right, you want the screenshot of what's up currently?
Yes, please, because you can see, you know, Brookhaven Close, Brookhaven Forest.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that.
And Robert, block out ours. I'd rather not have ours out in the public space. There you go.
Yep, got it.
Okay, so how many cameras do we have along the Peachtree Creek Greenway?
18.
18, okay, great.
Yep.
So these are the 4 of the parking lot, but I guess the majority of them are along the trail.
Right, let me, I just happened to pick those 4. Let me pull another one that's along the trail somewhere. I can,
Yeah, part of the reasons
There you
we limit the access is it eats a lot of bandwidth. If people were watching this, monitoring it, if we had 4 or 5 people doing it 24/7, our network can't handle that much live feed being monitored.
Are there police blue lights along the trail?
No.
Thank you, Robert.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Next.
So that concludes the update on the Brookhaven Park Bond Capital Improvement Program. You heard from Lee on the major projects. You heard from Brian on invasives. You heard from Robert on security. We purposely didn't talk about lake dredging because it's been done for almost 2 years now. We'll keep these updates going. And as the mayor said, the South Trail project of Murphy Candler will be on the city council agenda Tuesday evening for your consideration.
Okay.
If we are plowing on, next up is historic resources. Community Development Director Patrice Ruffin will walk you through the genesis of the project and where we're at. And this one's a fun one because it has a second part to it, which is community engagement and some feedback from the community. We're going to tap on their expertise in history to round out our historic resources. So right now, Patrice, I see your email.
Your calendar.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Let's see. All right. How's that?
There you go.
Okay. Good morning, Mayor and Council. Today we'll talk a little bit about our historic resources inventory based on what was listed in our comprehensive plan, some of the previous efforts that have gone on, and then I'll show you the map that we've been working on with the GIS manager. So the community work program document that was a part of the original comprehensive plan in 2014 and has been updated since that time included specific recommendations related to doing a historic resources survey and implementation of protection measures for those identified resources. Again, the community work program overall kind of gives us an idea of the things that we should be working on for every 5-year period. And as I mentioned, we update that periodically. So the historic resources inventory was a part of our most recent update and work program that we were doing for this year. Some of the previous efforts that have been undertaken related to historic resources in the city, historic Brookhaven was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1986. The Images of America Brookhaven book was published in 2017 after being spearheaded by former Brookhaven Mayor Rebecca Chase Williams. And most recently, the City Council in 2020 established the Linwood Park Historic District. And so pulling all of that information and other sources, the Department of Community Development and the GIS department worked together to develop a historic resources story map. Some of the other resources that were used were a couple of master's and PhD theses, one related to Linwood Park and one related to Fisher Mansion. And then also information from, again, the Images of America Brookhaven book and the National Register of Historic Places. And so now I'm gonna switch to the map so you can actually see how that works. And are you able to see that?
Yes.
Okay. And so what we did, the department put together a spreadsheet of identified sites, and Leo was able to work to be able to put that information on a map. And what happens is when you click on each item, it'll take you to that area on the map. You'll get a picture and then some information about that specific site or structure that's included on the map. So, and you can scroll through up and down, and the map will adjust for you to be able to see various locations throughout the city. Switch. So our next steps and what we would be looking for support from the city council on is to share the story map with our neighbors to gain additional input on historic sites. Once it is complete and finalized, we would like to have it go live on the city website. And then also include resources such as the DeKalb Historical Society and Georgia Historical Society for information for the public to be able to access. And then the final item is consider engaging a professional historian during the 2022 budget year to chronicle the first 10 years of the city's history since incorporation. And so that completes my presentation. Do y'all have any questions?
Questions? Any questions? Yes, so Lily.
I would just suggest that you said that the effort will be geared toward chronicling the city's history since incorporation. But I actually think one of the great stories of the city of Brookhaven is the story of its incorporation and incorporation effort. So I hope that you'll think about starting with the, with Mike Jacobs' conversations about having a city of Brookhaven.
Yeah, I would think there'd be a pretty significant preface.
Any other questions? Christian and I have talked about this, and I think having our history written down and documented is extremely important for the future. It goes into our retention strategy and history, our information retention. There's just a lot of great stories. Incorporation is definitely one that definitely needs to be documented and talked about, both the pro and the con side. And this is, but then it just again, what we did the first 10 years is great, but I would love it in 50 years, people to say, why is this where it is? Or why is this this way? And someone could, read about why this is, or have the resources to go into it. And they could still say we made the wrong decision, but they at least understand our mindset and why we made the decisions that we made. But I think it's utmost importance because so many times things get going and that information is forgotten as people move on with their lives, and people leave office, people leave director positions, people leave staff, and so there's the historical records extremely important.
And Mr. Mayor, I can't stress enough the value of engaging our populace on Patrice's effort, because there are so many long-term residents here who know things that we'll never know. And I'll give you two examples. We had an emergency sinkhole on Truly Circle back in 2017 near the Choa site. And it was a $250,000 fix, and we couldn't figure out where the water was coming from. DeKalb County had no records. It was a 48-inch water pipe underneath Tully Circle that went underneath I-85 through Corporate Square, and we didn't know where it came out. And I was talking to one of our residents, who I'll keep anonymous, telling him about it that night. And he said, "Oh, I know that comes out. Oh, we used to play in that when I was a kid. It's 40, you can walk in it. We walked all the way up to 85 in that tunnel underneath Corporate Square." And he helped us. And that's the outfall just north of the Corporate Square Bridge on the Peachtree Creek Greenway. We didn't know where the water was coming or where it was going. It was a resident that told us that. Additionally, there are monitoring wells in the Cherokee Plaza shopping center. Apparently it used to be some kind of industrial site back in the day. And our Public Works Department didn't know that there were required monitoring wells in there. So there's so much that our residents have that some are tactical, but I think there's some really good historical stuff out there too.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Just to mention, did you know that there was a dam off of Shady Valley that was built in 1932 during the FDR as part of the Works project? And it's still there, and it's a dam. And when it rains really, really hard, it's done in the form of a V, and the water just shoots out like a waterfall. I mean, neighbors come just to watch it. It's just amazing. That needs to be on this historic list.
There you go.
I'll share that with Patrice.
Yeah, and that would be the type of resources we would go to: WPA projects, CCC projects, all those projects from the Depression that communities have. Many bridges in many cities across America were built in the 30s with WPA money. So yeah, we're looking forward to actually putting this out to the public now that we've briefed you on the concept and getting all kinds of feedback. And we will include in the 2022 budget funding to hire a professional historian to write our history, because hopefully 100 years from now, all people will have are meeting minutes and agendas. But the why and the how and all that, it has to be documented. And cities don't do that. We have an opportunity to start strong. So that concludes the content area of the retreat this year, the advance. I believe we have some council members who would like to have comments and presentations. We start with District 1.
Well, so much of what I typically cover in the advance has been covered today by the conversations surrounding our parks and so forth, because my priorities are parks and walkability. And so I would just like to remind everyone of the ongoing effort to put a path all the way from I-285 to Peachtree Road along Ashford Dunwoody Road on the eastern side. We have made a lot of headway this year, primarily as a result of intersection improvements on Ashford Dunwoody Road. And we've just taken the opportunity to put as much path as we could squeeze into the budget of the project to continue that effort. But I look forward to y'all's continuing support of the Ashford Dunwoody path in District 1.
Excellent. Okay. John Park, you're District 2. You're muted. There's always one at every meeting. You're it, John.
I will share my screen. I have a very, very short presentation. To reiterate one of my goals when I first came on the council. Let's see here. These are my notes. This is my presentation. All right. So my district mainly is comprised of Ashford Park and Drew Valley and a little sliver of Brookhaven Fields. And due to the topography and the streams that are present, they're basically two distinct neighborhoods that are separated by Dresden. And it's also a barrier for connectivity, as Lindley said, from I-285 all the way to the Peachtree Greenway. So this is based on the original Skyland Trail Plan that the Path Foundation had published, which went through Northern Brookhaven, Chamblee, and my district, and then onto the Peachtree Creek Greenway. And so what I wanted to show was that this is most of District 2. This is Ashland Park here. This is Drew Valley. And one thing you can't see in the map is the topography. It's a very steep hill to go up to Skyland Road to get into Skyland Park in this area. And this is all very hilly. And then it's another 1,000, it's about 2,000 feet, 2 to 3,000 feet to get to Thompson. So you have this whole area in the middle that not only is kind of, topographically hard to get to, but also it's just, you just have to go around to get to anything. So this is Briarwood Park down here, the south. So these people in Ashford Park would kind of have to go around, adding to the distance and adding to the difficulty. When I first moved to the neighborhood, most of the foot traffic were strollers. They're young families, but I've very, very slowly but surely, the number of strollers has, maybe slightly decreased, but the number of children on bicycles has greatly increased. Dresden is not exactly the safest road in the road. So I think we have an impetus. We have crosswalks over here, yellow flashing beacons, and traffic lights over here, but really nothing in the middle of the district to provide the connectivity between the two neighborhoods, as well as the rest of Brookhaven, the Peachtree Greenway, and the northern end of Brookhaven. There is the part of the bike pedestrian plan is 195 LT, which is the connector between the two. So back 5 years ago, 3 or 4 or however many years ago, when we were looking at this, that was a concern, and they integrated the original Skyland Park, I'm sorry, the Skyland Trail plan from the Path Foundation into our bike ped plan. So this is my thought. At Dresden, at this location right here at the red, you have the 2 FEMA lots purchased and potentially more FEMA lots being purchased for green space, and you have potential stormwater facilities throughout the area. So rather than having to cross the street, we could have something like this or something like this at Dresden to basically connect the neighborhoods and put a pedestrian and bicycle artery through the heart of the district. And it has stormwater benefits as we improve the stormwater infrastructure in the area. As you can see from this map, all this over here is floodplain in this area. So we could leverage that to build something like this, so that you can just do a straight. I'm being a little selfish. I'd like to have a straight shot to Briarwood Pool on my bicycle, as opposed to having to go around or get in a car. And it greatly enhance the safety and just convenience for children on bicycles and adults on adults on bicycles. We count too. So it is in our master plan. Staff is aware of this, and I would appreciate council support in connecting not only Ashford Park and Drew Valley, but essentially connecting north and south of Brookhaven. Thank you.
John, where the first picture, where in Brookhaven is that? Because
this one?
Yeah,
no, that's a stock photo from PowerPoint that I just threw together. But as you can see, it's very representative of how windy some of our roads and trails are. So.
No, I'm sorry, I had to jest. Okay, Madeline.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think a goal of all of ours would be for us to get out of this pandemic safely. And so DeKalb County, well, the city of Brookhaven has offered, and DeKalb County has selected Briarwood Rec Center as a COVID vaccine distribution center, but there's not currently enough supply for them to open it. So I know that we're all going to continue to be really supportive of that effort, and our city manager and staff has done a great job of keeping us updated on that. But that is definitely a goal of mine, even though that's something that's really a DeKalb County kind of public health function, is to get that up and running when the supply is here, so that folks can get the COVID vaccines here in Brookhaven. Brookhaven specific issues, though, of course. I'm sorry, can you all see me?
Yep.
My screen black for a second. Anybody that has been following along to my town halls for the last year in my campaign know that bringing Brookhaven Park to its full potential is a goal of mine. And over 2020, we had dozens and dozens and dozens of communications with DeKalb County via emails, Zoom meetings, town halls, you name it, regarding the ongoing kind of dispute between Brookhaven and DeKalb regarding Brookhaven Park. Of course, we did have to go the route of litigation after those continued efforts did not get really anywhere. And so that continues to be a goal of mine. What I am excited about is the fact that now this is, in the court's hands, and we anticipate that hopefully they will be making a swift ruling in favor of City of Brookhaven so that we can move forward with those much needed park improvements for the entirety of the park. In the same vein as parks, last year we were able to complete the purchase of Langford Park, which is in Brookhaven Heights. And something that I think was made very well known to the community at the time was that although we were able to get the funding between the City of Brookhaven and DeKalb County, which thank you to them for throwing in for that, to purchase the land, there was not funding to then develop that land into a park. At the end of the year of 2020, we were able to move some funding over from the residual funding to have a little bit of funds to devote to Langford Park. And of course, the community has done some fundraising as well, so that we are able to get through the planning process. But a goal of mine for 2020 that I hope to have council support on is continuing to look at creative ways to fund the development of the actual park on the Langford Park space. The tree ordinance rewrite began this year, and that's something that's important, I think, to all Brookhavens. I know that especially in my district, I get a lot of communication regarding our tree canopy and continuing to make sure that that is a priority. So as that process has began this year, I'm going to continue to be involved in that and really promote that our community be involved in that as well, because it affects us all so much. Also, the city center project started at the end, public input at the end of last year, and that is continuing. The city center, of course, really is in the middle of District 3, and just like the tree ordinance rewrite, going to continue to remind people at every monthly town hall and at every opportunity I have to be involved in the city center project. The Social Justice, Race, and Equity Commission will be this year kind of coming out with its study, with its findings, with its recommendations. Of course, we formed it last year, and they got started under the chair, John Funny. So I'll be looking forward to continuing to hear from them, but also with 2021 being the year that they're going to be coming with those findings and recommendations, seeing if there are things that we can implement based on their recommendations. And I'll end with affordable housing. That's an issue that continues to affect, I think, cities all over America, and our city is no different. I think that the council and mayor share my concerns and wanting to make that a priority of something that the city continues to look at. I think they've done a good job of looking at that already, but it's a very complex and difficult issue that has my full support for us to continue to prioritize that. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe?
All right, Patrice has my presentation. She's going to be posting it here momentarily. Patrice, are you still with us?
Yes,
Exactly.
I'm bringing it up now.
Good, thanks very much. I have about 7 points that I'm just going to put out of things that I've been working on and things that I'm interested in having the rest of you provide your input on and to be thinking about. Okay, so sorry, there you go. Thank you, Patrice. So the first one, I'm going to highly recommend that we move towards creating a redevelopment authority. And I've spoken to Chris about this, and the points that I mentioned in 2 and 3 are going to be very supportive of this. And it really also addresses what Madeline just mentioned about affordable housing. This is a higher emphasis, though, on workforce housing. I'm going to ask that we have presentations made by appropriate parties in conversations with Chris by the end of Q2, and that if possible, we move ahead with all due speed to establish the Brookhaven Redevelopment Authority by the end of Q3 in 2021. The added powers, as I've said earlier, will be valuable as we move and start, I think, what will be a very aggressive redevelopment now of Beaufort Highway. Point number 2 is the city policy to protect the rights of residents and businesses during the Beaufort redevelopment. We've spoken about this before, but I'm going to really look to make it formalized this year. For protecting residents, the objective is to take a true humanitarian approach to relocation if and when that should become the case as Beaufort redevelops. And this is to avoid this scenario that we got into previously when a developer came in and we had to beg them to take it from 25 days to 42 days. I'm going to recommend that we do a 120-day rent protection period. And of those 120 days, 60 days be at no charge. And that's to compensate the equivalent of the first 30 days rent to cover deposit money for a new location. And the second 30 days is to cover the moving costs. Landowners and developers will know the ground rules when purchase agreement is made, and thus there will be no obligation on the part of the city. So they know the terms going in up front of what has to happen, and that has to be established. For businesses, of course, Beaufort Highway is unique in that it represents a wide diversity of different ethnic businesses that potentially could be at risk if redevelopment comes. So if a area is going to be redeveloped, if buildings are going to be raised, and if we're going to be redeveloping with a new mixed use, I suggest that we protect these businesses and offer them the opportunity to be repositioned in the new building and do it at a rent protective level for a period of probably 5 years, which allows them to retransition into what will be a changing economy. And we do this via the abatement process. And we do it simply for 5 years. That should be a simple period of time to actually go ahead and do it. And we work with every developer. This, I think, is essential for us as we look towards the redevelopment of Beaufort Highway, that we have a plan in place that is effective in helping to protect our residents and our business. Okay, number 3, on the workforce housing, affordable housing. Okay, so this is a program, an idea that I've been working on for well over a year, and these are some of the basic points. And it's based upon really what ATL is doing in the consolidation of the bus transportations between the multiple counties. And this is very similar to what's going on North Druid Hills Road. If the city-led abatements are used to secure land that will end up being used for bus hubs, the city should be able to position and negotiate for the right to use a portion of that land that then basically we would control via the BDA or the BRA to build workforce and affordable housing. It would be built on in a non-residential area, which then avoids the perception of lowering nearby residential housing. And I think that's a real key element of this. If this is done correctly, this could be a cookie cutter for ATL as it develops around the region, and Brookhaven could be responsible for developing the concept. In addition, I'm also working with Senator Tim Scott out of South Carolina. He's the individual who really led the charge in creating the current version of the Opportunity Zone, which allows investment money to come in and be used for social impact. I'm asking him to work to see if we can change the regulations that would allow for spot zoning. Of course, workforce housing is an important part of what an opportunity zone wants to be used for. But unless a situation occurs, sometimes land does not become available for such a project until after the fact of when opportunity zones are previously approved. So he's in agreement with this, and he's looking to see if he can move forward with legislation that will change this. So I'll keep you posted on that one. So if we could get these hubs to be opportunity zones, if we could use abatement money and then have control of the land. The third part is have investors come in to invest in this. I'm working with a group of people that are called impact investors. And these are usually people of means that their first priority is to make investment in projects that advance society, and their second objective is for the return on investment. It's atypical to what a typical investment would be. I've already presented this idea to several impact investors who focus on affordable housing and workforce housing, and they are very, very interested in seeing the opportunity that unravels here, and they have an interest in really taking a serious look at this. If we get the opportunity zone approved, not only would it make it that much more desirable from a return, even though it's their second objective, that would just be icing on the cake. Since the city, or in this case, the BDA or BRA, owns and controls the land, rents can be protected for an extended period of time, and they would not expire upon cessation of an abatement. Our current policy for affordable housing is based upon abatement. And we all know that once the abatements cease, whether it be a 5-year or 20-year or whatever, then the protection for a lower affordable housing status dissipates and that property goes to market value. You have to control the land in order to protect the rents for an extended period of time. Sherilyn will be working with others to recap all of the possible sources, and I am coordinating this effort with Sherilyn. Okay, point number 4 is to update current affordable housing requirements on developers by permitting an option to contribute to a workforce affordable housing fund similar to our sidewalk fund. Details will be prepared by city manager. I've had initial conversations with Christian on this. This enhances the ability to house more workforce residents with many financial benefits. If we work with every developer to say we want 10% affordable housing, so the pushback is always there because it disrupts their economic model. Not always, but sometimes. And maybe it's not advantageous that we do it in all cases, but we should be looking at terms where if it's really not feasible, that we have a fund that they can contribute to. And by looking at doing the project that was previously mentioned along ATL routes, we can go high, we can go dense, and we can accommodate and house more people than we can usually at a 10% rate of an apartment complex at affordable housing. And on the ATL sites, we can really focus highly on the workforce housing, which is 60% AMI. This will be, if we look at setting up an alternative, like the sidewalk fund for developers, I think this would be viewed positively by developers, and because it helps protect the long-term financial model, which means we'll get the best project out of them. But at the same time, we'll be able to have them contribute towards what's really needed in the protection of housing costs. Okay, point number 5, update to city special tax district for newly annexed areas. Again, this is another subject that I've had a conversation with Christian on. He's working on the details of this. We've had our conversations. But basically, add to the current policy an official option for an annexed area to seek utilization of dedicated taxes for projects beyond simply meeting the Brookhaven standard, which means this could include if they want to come back and instead of just covering the cost of bringing their streets up to par, bringing their sidewalks up to par, bringing their parks up to par. It could include they may want to buy an additional piece of green space. They want to add a new park. They want to install pavers along crosswalks, complete neighborhood sidewalk. They want to pave all their roads instead of just a few of them, etc. If this is an option that annexing area wants to participate in and agrees to accept the consequences of a longer pay down on higher taxes, they should have the option to do that because it benefits all parties. It is a phenomenal financing tool when you're taking that concentrated portion of a tax revenue and allocating it to a very specific geographic area. I think it's a win-win for all parties, and it should be an option that should be in there. Right now, it's not. It would have to be added by way of an additional ordinance by council. So I'm going to be coming back to you before the end of the year. Okay, so we'll go to point number 6. Okay, establish new requirement before an area can annex into the city of Brookhaven. annexing areas should know prior to being approved what the time period will be for the special tax district. We learned with La Vista Park that we were going to come in and do a 6-month review, and that they would know exactly how much long, what their period of time would be for having to pay higher taxes. We need to try and see if we can come up with a way to achieve that piece of information prior to an area actually seeking their request to be annexed into Brookhaven. It should be known upfront what their obligation is and not after the fact. It's very clear, and it eliminates the need for political considerations about what may or may not be plausible with a period of time of taxable payback. The objective is to bring it up to standards, and that number is what that number is. And I propose that what we do is we can't pay for it as a city. We can't do that. But if an annexed area wants to pay for it prior to actually requesting, perhaps we could do the review on that, and then everybody would know immediately. Well, not immediately, well, within a certain period of time, what that actual obligation would be. I think this is important, and I think we need to look at tackling this and see if we can come up with a creative way to provide this answer. Point number 7 is to formulate a citywide contact list for all HOAs. And this is to facilitate a lot of different reasons. Christian just mentioned about the historical aspect of Brookhaven. Well, if we really have contacts with all our HOAs who usually keep their email lists private and internal to them, but disseminate information, we could really ensure that we're reaching a wide breadth of residents within the city of Brookhaven. I also think it's extremely important that when we have issues like the Murphy-Candler Park issue, or if we have the Connolly project or an abatement project or an annexation process, a lot of times when things get heated up, we keep hearing from the same people. And I think we tend to maybe say, oh, there's only a handful of people that are really in charge of maybe making comments about a certain situation. I think it would be really good if we were to be able to reach out to a broad segment of our population with a professional questionnaire. So we're doing surveys very professionally and really get the pulse of what is going on. I don't think that we have that right now. I think that we just don't have access to that type of information, and it can be had. And I'm suggesting that we complete this project that Zach is working on to really identify all our HOAs, who the leaders are, and then we keep that list updated and we use them to constantly send out information. And when we have need to find out the feeling on a particular issue, we can do this questionnaire. We can do it either city-wise or district-wise or even neighborhood-wise, whatever the issue should warrant. So it'd also be a good opportunity to disseminate the city position on current issues. Could be conceptual in development. It could be about why we're doing what we're doing with our lawsuit with DeKalb County. And we don't just do it for the people around Brookhaven Park. We do it for the whole city, so the city understands what's going on. We could start positioning our policy on the abatement issue and why abatements are really positive. Get ahead of the message. You've heard me say this so many times because I really think that we're deficient in this category. And then why Brookhaven has taken certain positions that it does. Get out there and be proactive in putting our message out front. And I also think it would be a really positive move towards transparency and who and what we're doing. And I already mentioned questionnaires can be done citywide or by district. So that's my quick presentation. A lot of the things that have been on my mind. Thank you, Patrice, for putting up that presentation. And I look forward to having conversations with each of you on this and probably bringing this up for a couple of work session items.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any questions for any council members, other council members? We kind of went all without any input questions. If not,
John,
Christian.
I like your idea of that tunnel under Dresden. Is that part of the comprehensive plan? I missed it.
The path that it goes through is a part of the plan. But the actual tunnel would be something that would be a detailed thing that we need to work out. But there is a plan for connectivity to go through that area.
So is this the first time this idea is being presented, or has any work
No,
been done?
I've presented this many times over the years.
Okay,
Maybe not to, it was in remember 5 years ago, Joe, my path ideas about 5 years ago that I sent in a PDF? It was in that. This has been, we've had other, focuses, like acquiring green space. And I just wanted to declare that this is my next big, focus as an elected official.
now how do you move forward with this at this point?
Well, direct staff to put in the CIP and start the design. We've back when Marie was city manager, Marie actually funded a stormwater study to see how the floodplain near South Danby would be affected, and how opening up that culvert could improve stormwater drainage in the area, which it would. So it's been in the works. Staff has been aware of it for a long time. I'd like to, now that we've gotten some other higher priority items done in my district, I'd like to focus on this for the connectivity, because District 2 is in the middle between District 1 and District 3, and also between the two neighborhoods. So
Probably get a cost estimate on this. That's good.
Yeah, I think it's, as we've talked with the CIPs and Christian and Steve, it's you guys, we've said before, it's a question of money. We are running up to our limits of what we can spend. We have a lot of great projects about to be announced, as we know, and such, but it's a matter of money.
Is Dresden a state road?
No,
City road.
City road, good.
our state roads are Peachtree, Buford, portions of Claremont,
North Druid.
and portions of Northwood.
La Vista and Briarcliff as well.
Yep.
So if there is nothing else, I think this concludes the agenda for the advance. We've got some good feedback from the council and the mayor. We're excited to roll out the historic resource effort to the community. We'll always be on the lookout for property acquisitions if they pop up. And the team will continue their progress on the park bond. I'll leave it to you all for any closing comments.
Closing comments in reverse order, Joe.
No, I've made my comments. Thank you very much. Well, I will just say, I'm really glad that everybody contributed to this whole concept of council members really putting out on the table what it is they want. And I hope that you all continue to do this every year. I think it's a really opportune time to really share with your fellow council members what it is that's on your mind and what you think we need to be doing as a city. I really enjoyed this, Christian. Good job. John, thank you.
Yep. Madeline just informed me that her iPad died. So she says bye to everyone. John Park.
Thank you very much.
Lindley.
Thank you.
No. Yeah, I thank staff for all their time and efforts on this, and getting, moving to sort of virtual world. For those who are watching, anyone could come to any council events and arrive and show in person and watch. This is much more open and showing what's going on. Expanding green space is very, very important to myself and the rest of the council. And I think the subset of that is increasing the connectivity of that green space, or through the connectivity of all of Brookhaven, is in fact is increasing green space. And so I look forward to staff working hard to identify the locations in which we can improve connectivity that will lead to increased access to green space. I do think our metrics of 10-minute walk to green space is probably going to be more informative to us moving forward than just pure acreage due to restraints. And I would love also if GIS could do a 10-minute bike ride to a park, bring that up as a thing, and, and safe bike trails and connectivity is the same thing. So throw something on our GIS at some point.
We have a very talented GIS manager. He would want to know if it's a tricycle or electric bike.
Yes. Well, we could, he's so talented that he could start with tricycle and end with the electric bike. So, again, thank you everyone for viewing out there in the world. We'll see you guys on Tuesday, council meeting. Well, we'll have some exciting announcements there. Bye, everyone.
Good job.